Okay.
Hey guys.
So, you're going to start taking notes. Don't touch your calculator for right now. On your notes, I want you to write finding the value of a trig ratio. On your notes, write the top line. Finding the value of a trig ratio.
Wait, so what do I do with this? Because this one they had called me out and I ain't finished all of it.
Finish one of them. Find the value of the trig ratio. So this is why it's important when you're looking at notes. If you don't write the directions, you have no idea what you're doing. So what's going to happen, you're going to learn a lot about your calculator. It is helpful, but it also can be confusing if you don't see the difference. Today we are doing what's on the left side of the screen. Tomorrow we'll do something that looks like this. Didn't we just do this? Sine of A equals 48 over 50. So what happens is, in the left side of the problem, you are given an angle. And what are we going to get out when we plug it in? What does it say? Finding what?
Ratio.
Finding the value of the trig ratio. Okay? So what happens is, when you plug this in your calculator, you'll get out a trig ratio. Tomorrow, we're going to actually do the opposite. What does this capital A represent?
The angle we're looking from.
The angle we're looking from, it's also missing, or we would have called it something else. So A, or whatever letter is there, A, B, C, D, E, whatever it is, represents a missing angle. But this time, we are given the trig ratio. You'll see on your calculator, there's one button, one you hit for this, and then you'll shift and hit that button for this. But this is what we're doing tomorrow, and this is what we are doing today.
So which one am I writing?
So I'm just showing you the difference. I'm going to show you it twice so that you can see and understand. So what happens is, when we get to this is very simple. Doesn't take very much work at all. It takes clicking buttons in your calculator. But what happens when it comes to quiz or test time, students don't know the difference. And so they don't know which button to press. And so they just guess and get 50-50. So today, whenever you see what's on the left side of the screen, as in sign of a number, you literally type it in your calculator as it is. So if you go to your calculator, lift it up. I think it is 2 rows above the delete button. You'll see the word sine, S-I-N.
Whoa.
You'll hit sine 32 and equals. It does a round to the nearest hundredth. 100 has 2 zeros, so you're going to round to 2 decimal places. So what do we get?
Well, it's 0.529.
So around to 5.3. So that's your answer. So whenever you see sine, cosine, or tangent and a number directly next to it, you're literally typing it in your calculator as you see it. Okay? So cosine of 48. Type that in your calculator. So 0.67. We're rounding to the hundredth, which has 2 zeros.
Mine just says 0.5. Does that have any other number?
Because yours has a, what kind of calculator is that?
A cheap one.
Yeah, I don't know how to help you with that. Because it's not the one from our class. I don't know. Tangent of 13. Rounding to the nearest hundredth. What do we get? 0.23. Forgot to circle this one. So notice the difference. When we get to the right tomorrow, it is not the same thing. Okay, but for today, if you see a number next to sine or cosine or tangent,
Bless you.
you literally type it in your calculator. Questions?
So it's going to be a section on the quiz where you just type it in the calculator?
Yep. But there's going to be both on the quiz, so you need to know the difference. Tomorrow you'll learn how to do the right side. Okay? But you'll start seeing it tonight or today, and then do it tomorrow. Okay, so yesterday we learned, all right, when we found sine, so like in this problem, if we found a sine of angle A, all right, so coming from angle A, sine is what side over what side? Opposite over the hypotenuse. So that would be 48 over 50. And then if we found, let's say we found cosine of b. We did this yesterday. We found all of them. But if you're coming from angle B, opposite would turn into 14, and the adjacent would be 48. So what is cosine of B? 48 over 50. So I told you that there was a specific relationship between this, and they're called complements of each other. Complements mean two things that add up to 90 degrees. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to be able to rewrite sine in terms of cosine, and you'll be able to rewrite cosine in terms of sine. When you rewrite something, you're not changing the value, you're just changing the look of it. Like 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2, right? They look different, but they're the same value. 2/4 is a half, 1/2 is a half. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so what's going to happen since they're complements of each other? The cosine of an acute angle is equal to the cosine of its complement. So what will happen if you rewrite sine in terms of cosine, and it looks a lot harder with these words. I'll show you examples, and then you'll catch right on. Okay? If you rewrite sine in terms of cosine, you'll write cosine, you'll take 90 and subtract the angle of sine, and that will be your answer. We can do it with this problem we have on the screen. Sine of angle A. What is the measure of angle A? 74. Remember that when you write sine of an angle, that capital letter represents the angle. We already know angle A is 74. It is going to be equal to cosine of 90 minus 74, which is already written in this triangle. So that would be 16. So rewriting it, you go from sine to cosine. You take 90 minus 74 will equal 16. And I will prove it to you. You don't have to do this every time. I'm just proving it. Pick up your calculator. I only need one person to say the answer at once. Michael, can you type in sine of 74? No, I just didn't want to call him out, and then I was like, I'm already there. Give me it to 2 decimal places. All you typed in is sine of 74. What'd you get?
I got 0.96126.
So to 2 decimal places, it's 0.96.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, can you do cosine of 16 for me?
961.
So if you type in sine of 74, it equals 0.96. If you type in cosine of 16, you get 0.96 because they're equal to each other. So you're rewriting it in an equivalent way. So this will happen. Sine of B will be equivalent to, sorry, I skipped it, cosine of A. Cosine of A is equal to sine of B. Cosine of B is equal to sine of A. So all you're going to do, and when you rewrite it, you go from sine, you're going to go to cosine. You take 90, subtract the angle. I'll show you a different one. Let's see. Cosine, give me a number between 1 and 90.
790.
Cosine of 7. So if you go from cosine, you rewrite it in terms of sine, so you're going to write sine. What is 90 minus 7?
83.
All right, so type in cosine of 7 in your calculator. Yep. What'd you get?
0.99.
All right, now type in sine of 83.
0.99.
So when you rewrite it, you go from sine to cosine or cosine to sine. Then you take 90 and subtract that number. Okay? You don't have to check it every time. I'm just showing you why and what in the world you're doing. So like this one. Write sine of 56 degrees in terms of cosine. This is our example. So we're rewriting in terms of cosine. So we're going to take sine and write cosine. And then what are we going to do with this 56?
Subtract.
Subtract it from 90. So look something like this. You don't have to show me this work. You can do it in your head, but I'm just showing you on the screen. So what is 90 minus 56? 34. So your answer will look like cosine of 34. Here's what your answer should not look like. You should not have an equal sign because this will never make sense. Never. Y'all see? This is what your answer will look like. I've seen way too many times on a quiz or a test they write an equal sign between cosine and 84. If you go on your calculator and type cosine, what happens directly after the letter S? A parenthesis, meaning there's a number that's supposed to go there, not an equal sign. All right? And so you read this as the sine of 56 is the same as cosine of 34. But your answer will look like cosine 34. Okay? Open up your student journal, page 255. Through 6, we're rewriting in terms of cosine. So we start with sine of 9. So if we start with sine and we're rewriting in terms of cosine, you should write cosine, C-O-S, cos. And then what's 90 minus 9?
93. No, 83.
81.
Wait, what?
93. 90 minus 9. 81. You're okay. So your answer should be cosine 81. That's all you're doing. What about sine of 30? We're going to rewrite in terms of cosine. So cosine, what's 90 minus 30? 60. We're going to skip number 6. Go to number 7. Number 7, we're writing the expression in terms of sine. So we have, so you flip the page, we have cosine of 15. So we're going to rewrite with sine, and what's 90 minus 15? 75. So number 7 should be sine of 75. I skipped number 6, so we're on the next page. And then number 8, cosine of 83, rewriting in terms of sine.
Oh, so you got to have cosine in the front of the number?
Yep. So we're going to have sine of 7. So your answer should look exactly like this. Okay? You are doing number 6 and number 9 on your classwork paper.